From the New York Times: Iran's nuclear program ignites new tension between U.S. and Israel. Strains emerged during talks this week after a short period of strong relations between a new Israeli government and new American one. American negotiators have signaled that Iranians' advancements in their nuclear program and their recent hardline in Vienna mean Tehran is not serious about a diplomatic agreement. Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 20. Therefore hear the counsel of the Lord Yahweh that he had taken against Edom, and his purposes that he had purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 45. Therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord Yahweh that he had taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he had purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. Shalom, all praises, blessings, glories, and honors be unto Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim, Racha Kodash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone who have taught me his truth, as well as men of like mind. Shalom wa chasad, which means peace and mercy, to the elect of the nation of Israel, whom I used to call Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners of the seed and of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom are scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great, and abroad. To you I say Shalom, and Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Ratazah. This lesson is edifying and informative. Again, in the news, just recently published, Iran's nuclear program ignites new tension between the U.S. and Israel. And we understand that according to biblical prophecy, Israel is known and considered as the least of the flock, who are going to draw out America, Babylon the Great, to become a guard unto themselves during the period of the Third World's Woe, after attacking Iran. And once that happens, according to biblical prophecy written in the book of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, Russia will become a guard unto Iran. And this will all happen during the period, or the sparking point of the Third World's Woe, I should say, after the mark of the beast, which is the RFID microchip, has been mandated globally. From, again, the Washington Post. Long-running differences over how to deal with Iran's nuclear program have erupted into new tensions between the Biden administration and Israel, with two senior Israeli officials leaving Washington this week concerned that the Americans' commitment to restoring the 2015 nuclear deal will lead to a flawed agreement allowing Tehran to speed ahead with its nuclear enrichment program. And why are the Iranians speeding ahead with their nuclear enrichment program? Because the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai has put it into the minds, of their leadership and nuclear scientists to prepare for war, that is the Third World War, which cometh quickly, as it is written of in the book of Revelation, the 11th chapter, the 14th verse. For they understand that we are in a time of wars, hence the reason why we are hearing of wars and rumors of wars, but the end is not yet. Why? Because the prophecy concerning the mark of the beast must and will come to pass first. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Verse 8. A time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And the times that we are about to enter into, now more so than ever, is the time of the preparations of the third world's woe, or the times leading up to the third world's woe, which is written of here in the book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 14, as it cometh quickly. Revelation chapter 11, verse 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And the third woe, which is World War III, cometh quickly, a war that will be fought with burning and fuel of fire. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise. Now, the ancient battles of antiquity were fought between kingdoms going on the battlefield with their soldiers with swords and spears and maces and these kind of things in their hands, impaling each other, cutting each other's hands off, heads off, legs off, and so on and so forth, like in movies like Braveheart, 300. Men were screaming, testosterone were high. That is how ancient wars were fought. But this war, the Third World's War, is going to be with burning of fuel of fire. The reason to say, and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning of fuel of fire. And what's going to cause that to happen? The thermonuclear missiles. Because a fire not blown shall consume the kingdom of the wicked. Malachi chapter 4 verse 1. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And who are they that do wickedly? Who are the proud? The proud is Esau, Edom, the wicked, so-called white man, as well as 2/3 of the nation of Israel, as well as the heathen nations. Yea, and all that do wickedly, they commit idolatries concerning the nation of Israel. They commit idolatry, adultery, sodomy, bestiality, eat unclean and abominable foods, do unclean and abominable things. Therefore, they're going to be punished for that through death by pain, through nuclear fire, and also before that, through Jacob's trouble and the 4 kinds that the Lord is going to appoint over them: the sword to slay, the dogs to tear, the fowls of the heaven, and the beasts of the earth to devour and destroy, written of in the book of Jeremiah, the 15th chapter, shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, save the Lord Yahweh of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. So nothing is going to be left in this land once the Lord has completely destroyed it by way of thermonuclear fire. Psalms 21, verse 9. Thou shalt make them as a fiery oven in the time of thine anger. The Lord Yahweh shall swallow them up in his wrath, and the fire shall devour them. And these things are coming. And there's a reason why the Lord has been putting it into the minds of these different leaders globally, especially on Gog and Magog, the Russians and Iran, to prepare for war. That is a third world's woe. And the least of the flock, which is the state of Israel, are going to be the ones that are going to spark that off. It says, the strains were evident all week as the Biden administration sought to bring the alliance with Israel into a united front about how to deal with Iran over the next year, because Israel wants to be the sole superpower in the Middle East that possess weapons of mass destruction. They don't want anybody else in that region to possess nuclear capabilities, nuclear warheads. How hypocritical is that? The It says, in an effort to close the gap, American officials let out word this week that 2 months ago, Mr. Biden asked his National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, to review the Pentagon's revised plan to take military action if the diplomatic effort collapsed. Administration officials also outlined new efforts to tighten rather than loosen sanctions on Iran. And the scripture says, when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So these people may say, oh, we'll reach a deal with Iran, or oh, we're going to do this and do that. But just know that according to biblical prophecy, no peace will be reached. No negotiations are going to be met between Iran and Israel and the U.S. Because remember last year what happened? Israel and America took out Iran's top general, Qasem Soleimani, and followed by the assassination of their top nuclear scientist / physicist. So let's be honest here, man. Do you really believe the Iranians are going to try to so-called strike a deal with the Americans and the Israelis? No. It says Mr. Biden's focus on military options and sanctions were an effort to signal to Tehran that the United States was running out of patience. And didn't Biden say that? Didn't he say he was running out of patience? The Iranian foot dragging in the nuclear negotiations in Vienna? Administration officials said Secretary of State Antony J. Blinken said last week that the new Iranian government does not seem to be serious about doing what's necessary to return to compliance, because the U.S. were the ones that left the compliance, that had left the deal in 2015 with the 2015 nuclear deal. So Iran weren't the ones that had left it. It was the U.S. So Israel is going to only get more frustrated and eventually take matters into their own hands and attack Iran. And then when Iran retaliates, America is going to become that guard onto the state of Israel. And then Russia is going to get involved. But right now there are wars and rumors of wars happening concerning Russia and China and the U.S. and Europe, NATO, Ukraine. Okay, so those are all just wars and rumors of wars. Keep your eyes really on the Middle East between Israel and Iran, and the U.S. and Iran, especially the mark of the beast, because that's what we're mainly looking at. Once that chip gets mandated, then hey, the Most High is going to speed things up even more. So Lord willing, we could be out of here by next year. So with that, I'll end this lesson here, because this article is pretty lengthy, as you can see. So I'll leave the link, Lord's willing, in the description box of this lesson. Until the next, I say shalom to the elect. Lord's willing, until the next. Shalom.